I gotta say, man, there is nothing like watching Kings fans in real time figure out, oh, we're gonna need a bigger boat. Right? Um, yeah, the legends are true. This is what it is. Now, let me be clear, there's still a lot of work to be done. By no means is this series over, no matter how many Kings fans have already kind of conceded, right? It's almost after years and years of trauma. They're like, it's over. All right, I'm gonna leave y'all alone. I'm gonna leave y'all alone. Before we get into tonight's game, some possible adjustments and some things to look for, let's talk about what happened in that game 5 in Sacramento. And I think we've got to start with Draymond, right? 21 points off the bench, 4 steals, bunch of blocks, and just kind of dominated the game in only a way that Draymond can. But this is a version of Draymond. This is the recipe moving forward when you look at this version of the Warriors. The lack of size and kind of the issue of playing he and Looney at the same time. Kuminga can't get on the floor. A big part of that is because of who Looney and Draymond are. Not trying to diss them, but that's just the reality of it, right? The pieces don't fit like they once did. That was why Otto Porter was such a big piece for them a year ago. But Draymond comes off the bench and he's just ultra aggressive offensively. And it's been something that's been so frustrating over the years. It's like, why can't Draymond provide more offense? You saw it earlier in his career, right? But your environment kind of molds how you develop. And on this team and on this dynasty, especially when I think that was one of the unintended consequences of when KD arrived, right? It was when KD arrived, Draymond was like, man, I ain't got to shoot at all, right? And you understood that. You understood that mindset. But again, in hindsight, the consequence was he kind of neglected that aspect of his game and he never flipped it back mentally. Well, this team is different now, and we need him to be more aggressive offensively. And you see the touch around the basket. I think he's fully capable of being efficient from that corner 3 ball, right? And here's the trick to it. Here's the truth. It's really tough to make shots when it's always option B or C. You see him catch the ball, he looks this way, he looks that way, he looks for the lob, and then sometimes he's like, oh, well, then I'll take it, right? I don't care who you are. That's so difficult to make shots that way. And so it's really a mindset for Draymond as far as, hey, sometimes I'm looking for mine. If it's open, if you're giving me 10 feet of space, a runway, I'm going to take it and look for mine. And that makes all the difference in the world for Draymond offensively. And so he's got to keep that mindset. Now, especially against this Kings team where there's not much resistance at the rim. If looking ahead against a Memphis or a Lakers team potentially, it may be more difficult to finish and you understand that. But in this particular matchup, I think plan A for Draymond has got to be put pressure on them and keep them honest. Let me shout out today's sponsor, So Rare NBA, for sponsoring today's video and setting up the Athletic Alchemy Private League, where you can compete against me and others in the community to win prizes like tickets to games, autographed jerseys. It's the future of fantasy sport. Here's how it works, man. You get 20 common cards at sign up, and then you set your 5-man lineup. And it's kind of like those social media posts you see, $15 to build a lineup, right? Each player has a score, and your lineup has a cap. So you can't just build some super team. But here's the thing, your MVP, your best player in your lineup, that score doesn't count against your cap. But it's cool, though, because it really becomes about finding the right role players and high-value players. And hey, everybody seems to think they can do a better job than their squad's real GM. So let's see what you got. It's free. Click the link in the description and join the Athletic Alchemy League at So Rare NBA. Now, Steph, this is really a testament to how great he really is. 31-8, closed out the game. The truth of the matter is Steph didn't play well in that game 5. If you go back and watch the tape, there was just, and he was 2 of 10 from 3. And again, he found a way to make really difficult shots down the stretch, and he found a way to fill up the stat sheet. But if holding him to the chef's standards, the attention to detail, the focus, it just wasn't there. It wasn't a great performance from Steph. And so you could kind of make the argument that that's encouraging, considering they got the win on the road, right? We talk about Kevon Looney, another 20 rebound night, man. I mean, shout out them boys at the 97 The Game. I think it was Bonte and them. They were like, the question was proposed, is he the best contract in all of sports? I mean, this time of the year, he basically undresses your team's favorite center, right? It just happens over and over again. And now the Kings are kind of finding that out again in real time. It's fun to watch, right? Now, I want to shout out Jordan Poole. He only had 10 points, but it was a different floor game from him, if you noticed, right? And that's the key for him moving forward. Poole can really lift the ceiling of what this playoff run can be if we can get that type of effort from him. And what it was understanding, hey, it's not all about scoring. Affect the game in other ways. And so when you think of Jordan Poole, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably as far as like attributes. He's super quick, unlimited energy, right? Those attributes, great hands. I think his hands are ahead of his feet. And some of the turnovers are his hands move a little quicker than his feet. But I digress. I don't want to diss Poole because I thought he played well. And you saw him make hustle plays. Open up the floor game, okay? It's not all about just getting the ball and scoring. Use those quick hands and all that energy to disrupt plays. Get into plays, those 50-50 balls, be in the mix. You're a young guy, use it. And I thought he did that in that game 5. And so that, with the combination of constantly moving downhill and putting pressure on the Kings, I mean, that was an ideal performance from Poole. I won't say ideal. You'd like him to maybe score a little more. He wasn't that efficient, but it was the mentality that he played with that was ideal in that game 5. Now, do they keep him in the starting lineup? Is there a psychological part to that of kind of rewarding him with the start and he rewards the team with playing more of a complete floor game? Listen, like he's never going to be the defender I think that we want him to be, but again, he can make up for it in other areas as far as getting to the line and winning 50-50 balls and using those quick hands to just kind of muck things up at times, right? So I don't know. I expect him to start again tonight. I don't know. I don't think that that's a big deal. It's more about who's finishing, right? And I think the one question I do have with the rotation, again, Kuminga, 2 DNPs in a row, is that, and this just may not be the series for him. I think he's got to stay ready, and I know they're trying to keep him mentally engaged, but the truth of this is the matter is we may not see him in this series, right? Dante DiVincenzo. Bro is a minus 29 in the series. And y'all know me, I'm not a numbers guy. I don't throw stats at you, but like the eye test tells me that is true as well. Like he's really kind of struggled. 3 balls not going down for him. And then defensively, he's not able to have the same impact we've seen him have throughout the regular season. And I think part of it is the pace of the game. The Kings' pace is so fast. I think it's just kind of Dante struggled with the matchup, right? Styles make fights. And I bring that up to say Moses Moody, who's got a little sprinkle of minutes, usually in the first quarter, 4-3 minutes, and how well he's performed. Does he perhaps get a second stint of minutes tonight or potentially in a game 7 if Dante continues to struggle? That's one thing that I would keep an eye on as far as the lineups and rotations go for the Warriors. But, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, I assume Poole will start again tonight and Draymond will come in and do his thing off the bench. He's just got to keep that plan A aggressive offensive mindset. From the Kings' perspective, listen, I warned of this when it happened, right? When Keegan Murray, the unintended consequences of him playing better, and he is playing better, man. The shot is pure, right? I like him as a player. Jokes aside, I liked him coming out of the draft. I thought it was the right pick over Ivy. I still do. But him shooting better and kind of introducing himself into this series, what happened was you knew he was going to be on the floor more. And what happened was in that game 5 in the fourth quarter, they were taking turns on him like he was Kendall Jenner, right? It was, you go, no, you go, we'll all go, we'll all score, right? And so I think that is probably one of the big adjustments we're going to see in this game 6. And you've heard rumblings, a lot of Kings fans saying, hey, we got to start Davion Mitchell. We got to just match his minutes with Steph because he's guarded him as good as anybody in recent memory. I'm not going to cap on that. Like, he is feisty with that, right? It's the offense. And I think they still have enough firepower. I think that's the move that Mike Brown's going to make. Davion, it's interesting because, the one mark of a shooter, he's never going to be labeled a shooter, but he's hit enough of those to where the Warriors are actually, when the series started, they were just turning their back and waiting for the rebound, right? Now you're seeing him kind of halfway come out on him. Like, he's hit enough of them to make the Warriors a little concerned with the 3. And it's interesting because when he releases it, my eyes tell me his body language, he don't know if it's going in or not, right? And there's a lot of non-shooters that way, right? But a shooter kind of knows when they let it go. That feels good or it feels bad, right? Davion lets it go and his body language, he's like, oh, it went in. Shit, right? cool. But I guess is he along the lines of a Marcus Smart or a Dylan Brooks in the sense of if he hits one or two early, does it end up actually maybe kind of hurting you overall as a team because now he gets more aggressive shooting it and doesn't look to drive. And I've noticed he doesn't really want to finish in the paint either. So I don't have a big problem maybe running him off that line if he hits a couple of them. But I think that that's the main move for the Kings to make. The other possibility that they could do is they could start Monk and move Huerter to the bench. Huerter's been pretty much non-existent. What is he shooting? Like 16% from three in the series. And so you just start with Monk right away. And that's the advantage the Kings have in these final two potential games. I got to say potential, right? But it's the young legs. The turnaround on this game 6 and maybe a game 7 is just 24 hours. And you imagine that favors the Kings and their young legs. Now, how does Malik Monk feel after that fall? I think what happened is he was more scared than hurt. I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you, right? Where you take a bad fall and you sense that you almost got super faded. I think that's what it was because he kind of woke up after that and almost took them home in that game 5, right? And then Fox hurt the finger late on the deflection from Steph, and he was shaking that off, and that could swell up. That could be more of an issue perhaps maybe than Monk. But yeah, you have to favor their young legs. And then listen, if they get really desperate, I think the desperate move from Mike Brown would be to see Metu. Metu, I don't know how to say his full name. I believe he's a Nigerian brother. He's 6'10", super athletic, a type of guy that hurts the Warriors in the paint with his athleticism. But for whatever reason, Mike Brown hasn't had trust in him in this series. He from what I've seen from him, and Kings fans, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he has a little too much irrational confidence offensively. Like he'll come down and like drop step, like pull up and you're like, whoa, buddy, like know your role, right? And so, but I think that would be the break glass an emergency rotation player for the Kings if this gets out of hand here in game 6. But, listen, I haven't brought it up yet. If you know who shows up tonight, game 6 Clay, none of this will matter, right? It won't be light the beam. It'll be start the bus. It'll be over. And I think it's very important that the Warriors handle this now because not only do they need anything can happen to win a game 7 on the road. It goes without saying that's extremely difficult regardless of the opponent, but just a game 7 in itself, what that takes out of your body is an issue as well. You just don't want to play in game 7s because it drains more of your gas tank than you want moving forward because this becomes a war of attrition getting through round to round, right? And so I think they got to take care of business tonight. And, this 5 o'clock start, you heard Steph even campaign for it. Take the day off. You want that crowd and that energy and that juice early. But the truth of the matter is right now, the Kings, they're kind of playing with house money, right? Because, the pressure was on them in that game 5. And now you see their fans and everybody kind of saying, well, what a season. What a great season for the Kings, trying to kind of maybe relieve the pressure from them. And so they don't really have nothing to lose because the truth of the matter is everybody expected the Warriors to take care of them when the series began. And so they can play loose, they can play free, and they're going to play fast, and it's going to be a battle. But I can't call it, man. I don't want to jinx nothing here. But those are my thoughts headed into this huge game 6. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.